take it from the top.
All right, so my name is Linda Slack-Cruz. I'm with Tahoe Dog Days. Today we're going to talk about choking protocol. So when you are talking about choking, there's three kinds. There is choking witnessed, choking unconscious, and choking unwitnessed, so where you just come upon the dog and it's already unconscious. So today, if you come up to your dog and your dog is choking, it's coughing and it's gagging, typically your dog is going to have a stance where it's leaning forward, head down, and it's trying to expel something. Move your dog, if possible, to a small room so you can monitor its actions. Don't go to a bedroom because a dog may try to crawl under a bed. It's trying to get rid of everything, so it's trying to get out of everybody's way. But watch your dog. Let them try to expel it themselves. If they can't, then what's going to happen is your dog is going to either keep coughing, and you're going to try to help your dog either by taking it to the vet immediately, as long as there's an airway. You have to be prepared, though, for the dog to go unconscious and what to do when that happens. So if it's coughing, try to get it out, get it to the vet as quickly as possible. After a few minutes, if it can't get it out itself. If your dog goes unconscious when this is happening...
Linda, quick question.
Sure.
So once they start coughing, at what point do you decide, okay, he's been coughing for a while now,
yeah,
I need to take him to the vet?
If it's a couple of minutes, he's got an open airway, get it to the vet as soon as you can.
So 2 minutes of coughing, you should just take him to the vet?
Yeah, get it to the vet if you can. If you can't, they have what's called a billowing effect. Dogs aren't like humans. You don't have the Heimlich maneuver on an animal. What they have is what's called a billowing effect. So you take your hands and you go to the sides of the rib cage and you do thrusts. And you thrust in the direction that you want the item to be expelled. So you don't want to push backwards because that'll push it, it might push it back down. But you want to push behind the item. So if it's a dog, you know, a medium-sized dog, you can actually straddle the dog. Hands are on both sides of the rib cage, and you're thrusting forward. When you're at home, just feel like, put your hands on your dog and find out where the rib cage is. Because what's going to happen, as soon as you start pushing, the air is going to push forward, and it will help the dog expel the item. So 3 things to think about when you're playing with your dogs. I want to show you the toy that the animal we were talking about choked on. It was just this.
Oh,
hard toy.
Pretty big.
Pretty big. Know the size of the toy, because if I'm playing with a dog this size and I'm monitoring the play, this is okay. But if I'm playing with a dog, a large dog, this is not okay. So a tennis ball, a regular handball, those are not actually very good toys for animals because of this. They can actually swallow it, they get excited, they're running after something. You see everybody throwing tennis balls at the beach. An animal could actually grab it and it goes right down. You know, you'll see golden retrievers all the time with several balls in their mouths. I mean, that's just typical for them. But those are dangerous because they actually can swallow them. So this, as hard as it was, this is what it choked on. So basically, if you have a couple people, you can try to remove something from an animal's mouth. It's not suggested because you could injure yourself, you could get bit, you could lose fingers, so you have to be very careful about what you're doing. You really want to let the animal try to expel it itself. If the animal is choking on a string, do not pull it out. We don't know what's on the other end of that string. You could cause more damage, so you don't want to do that. So toys to be leery of. Pig's ears, balls, any kind of balls. The best toy to play with is a Frisbee. Something that the dog is not going to swallow, so something larger. And it's always, an animal should be monitored when they're playing. Check the animal's toy box. If things are starting to fall apart, get them out of there. You don't want anything, you know, the squeaky toys. You don't want them swallowing the little squeakers. So always check on your animal's toys and never leave your animal with like a bone. They can choke on a bone. People say, oh, I give the bone when I go away. Well, that doesn't help your dog because that's usually when something bad happens. So don't do that. So again, so if it's coughing, gagging, trying to expel it, let it do it. Put it in a small room. Then try to help your dog. If you know you're too far away from a vet, do the billowing. You know, you want to thrust forward. Dog goes unconscious, then you can actually open the dog's mouth and you're going to pull the tongue out past the canines and you're going to open the dog's mouth and you're going to see if you can actually remove whatever it is. You need tweezers, pliers, or whatever, but this is only after the dog has gone unconscious. Pull out what you can. If you can remove the object and your dog has, now stopped breathing, you pull the canine, let me do it this way, the tongue out past the canines, you take your hands, you go around the dog's mouth, see if you can see it this way. You want to make a tight seal, and you actually breathe into the dog's nose. So it's a very long breath, slow, long breath. And what you're looking for, you want to say like breath, rise, and fall. You want to see that the rib cage starts to come up and go back down. If the first breath doesn't go in, you try a second breath. Same thing, breath, rise, and fall. If it doesn't breathe, you don't see the breath come up and down, you want to start compressions. So to start compressions, what you do is you
after you stop breathing.
Yeah, because now we got a situation where he's not doing anything. So you take one hand underneath one side of the rib cage, you make like an L with your other hand, use it as a guide, and it's just, it goes like about a third down the chest, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Do that up to 30 compressions, 2 more breaths. If a breath goes in, great. Check their actual pulse. Right back here at the hind leg is the best place. Right across the artery there, you'll be able to see if they have a pulse. So right back here. So when this is happening though, if you can't get a breath in, if compressions aren't working, the best thing is to get it to a vet if you can. And that's all you can really do. So be ready for the dog to go unconscious if it's choking. Check the breathing. If you hear stridor, like that's when they're really having the issue. That's really a good chance. Right there is when you really want to do the chest thrust, or you want to, the billowing effect, because that's the dog's only chance. So either way, if the dog goes unconscious, take it to the vet. If the dog comes back, also take it to the vet, because you still don't know if it did any damage on whatever it was choking on. So the last one would be you come up to your dog and your dog already is unconscious. Do whatever you can. Check the airway, do the compressions, and then get it to the vet. So in this case, they couldn't get it to the vet fast enough. So those are the 3 methods. Any questions?
When you say unconscious, is it possible for them to be unconscious but they're still breathing? They just, or when you say unconscious,
when
you
they go
mean
unconscious,
they're no longer
they
breathing?
aren't breathing.
Okay.
They may still have a pulse, but they're not breathing. So at that point, that's the only time you can really open their mouth up as wide as possible and see if you can get to whatever it is that's choking. And then rescue breathe for them. So as soon as that happens, if you can remove the item, then you rescue breathe till they start breathing on their own. So that's all you can do. Yeah.
For a medium dog, if it's unconscious, getting it to the vet, probably not that big of a deal. But when you have a large dog, and I had to move a large dog that wasn't conscious, and I couldn't move it by myself.
Yeah.
And I'm a strong guy, so a smaller woman's going to have a really hard time with a large dog. She's going to
Absolutely. I had a noof go down on me, and I actually had to call a neighbor at 6:30 in the morning, put it in a blanket, lift it into the car. There's no way I was going to get in the car.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's you do what you can. You're the animal's first responder. All you can do is try. So, questions?
I mean, you make all those toys that you throw them.
Yeah, toys are, like for animals, they're not regulated like they are for kids. So it's up to us to actually regulate the toys that they actually have. But really a Frisbee, something that's a larger toy that they can play with. The rings, those are actually pretty good. But balls are very dangerous. So.
Dexter loves them.
Yeah, I know my dog brought a ball in right after that happened, and give me that ball.
Yeah.
So the key is don't go towards the mouth until they're unconscious.
Yeah. I mean,
Don't be too
depending on the dog and your situation, if there's 2 people and there's a way to actually remove whatever it is, great. But dogs are freaking out at that point, so they're scared. So they're going to do whatever they can. So you have to be very careful.
So when on the average, when they're choking, is it like right where it turns? Is that, would it typically be like if you open their mouth,
Yeah.
you would probably see it there?
Yeah, you'd probably see it.
See at least part
So
of it?
like in this instance, they could see it, they just couldn't get it out.
Okay, and then once you start some of the maneuvers that you talked about there, for an average situation, is it usually pretty successful?
Yeah, yeah, as long as,
So like maybe after 20 seconds or something, they would?
yeah, and most animals
Spit out?
actually will, just like, if you're choking on something, you know, normally we can actually get it out.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. They'll try to expel it on their own, and most of the time they're successful.
Yeah.
So it's just when it's gone a little bit too far down that is the issue.
How much do you compress with those thrusts?
You know, when you're pushing it in, it's just, you want it to be a pretty hard thrust. So I wouldn't even worry about the ribs at that point. I'd be pushing as hard as I could to get that thing out.
Yeah.
So, you know, just like you would with a person with compressions, there's a chance you could break a rib, and that's another reason for going to the vet afterwards. But
Yeah.
it's, you're pushing, you're trying to get that air moving, so. Anything else?
What's the vet gonna do? Once
The
you get
vet,
there? Is he gonna
the
trade
vet's
you?
gonna just check the dog
No,
out.
let's say the dog is still choking.
Oh, they'll,
No.
you know, they can probably do a sedative. They could do something to knock the dog out right there and then, and actually get in there and remove it. So, the other reason though, if the dog's been doing this, they wanna check it out, if they have to x-ray, if the dog actually swallowed, you know, where it went, they might actually have to do a surgery and pull it out. So, that's your reasons for going, but, yeah, they can calm the dog down a lot faster than we can, so.
Steve, I have a question. So, if this happens on a weekend, say a tourist is up here with their dogs, and what type of services do we have up here at the lake as far as an emergency vet?
You have two choices for emergency. One is in Reno,
Okay,
and the other is Donner Truckee Vet.
okay,
Has emergency services on the weekends.
okay.
So it's good to, especially if you are in that field where you're taking care of people that are visiting, it's good to have those numbers available.
Yeah.
And even for yourself, you know where your closest emergency vet is, know what their hours are. Sometimes in the summertime, vets will stay open longer because we have so many tourists. So know who's available in your area. So, and I think it's Neil Road for Reno.
Okay.
Is the emergency vet.
I think there's one in Carson, a 24-hour dog place.
There is, they're very expensive though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know
You
that one.
plan to drop 2,000 before you leave.
Okay.
Well,
Oh
you
my.
better
Been there,
really
done that.
love that.
That was the previous dog.
I've heard about that actually. That's right.
Yeah. I'd just like to say that in Dr. Montana, her phone is also monitored. I mean, you can call anytime, even if it was Thanksgiving or something. But if they don't get back to you right away, then you want to do something alternatively.
Yeah,
But yeah, their number is a 24-hour number.
okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, you're
That was
welcome.
very informative.
Wow.